Good day and welcome to module number 5 on digital marketing. Over the last couple of sessions, we looked at the various steps involved in the design of a website. And from this session, over the next 4 sessions, what we will get into is an introduction to the other components of digital marketing. In this module, we will focus on one of the components, which is search engine optimization, or SEO as it's known as. As we all know, being on page 1 of a search engine is extremely critical because very few of us really go to page 2 or page 3. So in a sense, being on page 1 is make or break so far as being discovered or noticed for our brand or company or whatever we are offering. So in this particular module, what we'll look at is what goes into search engine optimization. What are the factors which shape the position in the on what page we come in. We will look at what are the different terms which are critical for search engine optimization. What are the terms which are used there? And the other important thing we'll also look at is what are the tools, free tools, which we have available, which will tell us how our search engine, how our brand is performing in the entire process of the search engine optimization. That will be the focus on module number 5. Welcome to module 5.
Right. So we'll touch briefly on what is SEO, right? We talked about SEO is all about getting yourself on page 1, and it always keeps the Google's algorithm in mind. This is, I hope everybody understood this. It's a very simple diagram which is there, right? But jokes apart, this we'll get into each of this in more detail when we actually do the class on when we do the session on SEO. But essentially, remember that there are 2 aspects of SEO which are very important. One is what we call as on-page factors, and second is what we call as off-page factors. Now, ignore what's there on the slide. We'll get into detail later. But broadly understand the concept behind what is on-page and what is off-page. The word on-page means anything to do with your website is what is called on-page. So think of it like a calling card. You have a visiting card. When you go and introduce somebody for the first time, there are certain things that you want him to know. If you've got a visiting card, you want to know which company you're from, what's your designation, what's your name, what's your phone number, what's your email ID, what's your address. These are 5-6 things that you want a new person to know about you when you go and meet him first, which is why you have a visiting card. Now, Google, you like a visiting card, you also need to tell Google who you are. And that is what on-page SEO is all about. Google, like I said, is a machine. And you have to feed the right input data to the machine so that the machine can index you and slot you in a particular content bucket, like we talked about in the earlier case. We talked about digital marketing courses, millions and millions of websites. If you don't tell Google that you are a digital marketing course or a digital marketing consultant, Google will never know. So you have to feed Google with certain input data to allow Google to understand who you are. And that is what on-page is all about. And we look at what are the factors that get into on-page. And those factors are all to do with what you put in your website for Google's bot to read and analyze you. That's the first part. So on-page SEO. The second part is the off-page SEO, where we talked about in the case of digital marketing that if you're one among the million websites, how does Google decide whether you should be on page 1 or whether you should be on page 100? Those are what we call as off-page factors, which is nothing to do with the website, but is to do with what people are talking about you, what people are referencing you about you outside your website. So whether it's on social media, people talking, whether people are talking, whether you're somebody has given you a talked about you and on some other blog, some other article, somebody has spoken about you, some other website has mentioned you, mentions, reviews. These are the aspects which impact your rank position, and all these things are what we call as off-page factors. So both on-page helps Google to understand who you are. Off-page helps Google to understand how relatively you are better off from other million websites. And that relative position is what makes you come up on page 1 or on page 100. So we'll look at each of these in greater details when we get into the SEO class on SEO. But there are several tools that lets you understand your current SEO levels. They give you primary indicator of what you need to set the right aspects with the control. And let me show you very, very briefly one of my most favorite tools. And this is a free tool which I use. We looked at this site called MyFaith just recently. Now, this is a new site that has been launched some 6-7 months ago. June, in fact, it got launched. And the SEO has been being done for this particular website, and Google Search Console as this tool actually helps me to understand what are users searching for and what is my current rank position. So these are actual search terms that people have. Hanuman Chalisa benefits. Don't laugh, right? I know, but this spiritual side. Rudra Mantra. I know that Hanuman Chalisa benefits 43 clicks have taken place. There have been 1,846 impressions. Now, what's an impression? Each time your URL is shown up on any search engine, it's an impression. So if you, let's say, impression is not number of people, mind you. Impression number of times the URL has come. So Priyam might see the same URL 3 times. It'll be 3 impressions, not 3 users. So Hanuman Chalisa, we know that in the last 28 days has come up on 1,846 times. It has got a CTR. What is a CTR? A CTR is a term that you should understand. It's called click-through rate. What's the click-through rate? It is number of clicks over number of impressions into 100. Right? So it says, so 48 over 1846 will give me 2.86%. Right? So that's a CTR. Why is a CTR important? It tells me the degree of how useful somebody found it. So if you saw my URL and only 2.86% of people clicked through and came to a website. So that's a good metric to monitor. And the last thing it shows is position. What is position? It shows the rank position this search term has had over 1,846 in Google, which shows that it is around page 1 of Google. Right? So one good way to test it out is to open a new window and let me type Hanuman Chalisa benefits. The first rank position, now Hanuman Chalisa benefit as a search query, I have as a user I've typed it. So there are millions of websites which talk about Hanuman Chalisa. MyFaith is not the only website in the world. Google has indexed all these sites, and in its own algorithm, it decided that timesnow.com, this is a site which is most relevant. Then comes Live Hindustan, Indus Scrolls, Har Zindagi, whatever, Amar Ujala, Quora, MyFaith. As you can see. Right? Now, by making sure that I've come up on page 1, I have got 48 free clicks, which otherwise I would have had to advertise for. Right? That's how SEO works. And let me go back.
Excuse me, sir. Sorry to interrupt. I had a doubt.
Please.
Sir, you had said that click-through rate is clicks per impression, but clicks will usually be like one click per user. Like the user won't click it multiple times, but the impressions.
You never know. There are users who click multiple times. You will discover that as you go along. Actually, there is something called a rage tap. Now, what's a rage tap? See, most of us tend to use it on the mobile phone, except for certain categories. Now, rage tap is that you have clicked on the link once and you're impatient because it hasn't opened as yet. So you click on it again. So one of the analytics that we tend to look at is what we call as rage tap. How often have users tapped on the same link more than once? Because that tells me there is something wrong in my backend. So when I clicked, when you click something, what happens? The signal goes to the server to show you the page. If the signal doesn't move fast enough, you will type it again. Does it answer your question?
Yes, a part of it. My actual question was impressions can be of multiple types. Like same person can search for the same thing multiple times. So the click-through rate won't give us a perfect percentage of number of clicks per person. Like, no, is there any other method?
It doesn't give number of clicks per person, but 95% it's unique, usually. 95% of the time, it is unique.
All right, sir. Understood.
Right. It's not 100% uniqueness, but 95% would be typically unique. The uniqueness may reduce when you look at it from a larger time frame. Like for taking this example, Hanuman Chalisa. I may look at it today. It's unlikely to come back tomorrow to read this again. I may come back a month later to click on this. And that is something, that data point that we get to know from Google Analytics. It tells me what's the kind of returning users that have come from your website through organic. Any other questions?
Yes, I have a question.
Yeah.
Sir, so you said if a person clicks a website for 3 times, so this is 3 impressions.
Not clicks. Clicks, when he views it 3 times, it's 3 impressions. Impressions, number of times you get to see it.
Okay. And
or an opportunity, what we call in marketing as opportunity to see.
Okay. And if 3 different people see, then also it's 3 impressions.
Yes. Impression is number of times the ad or the URL is available for somebody to see. Look at it from your, let's say you opened up your Instagram account, right? And you're scrolling. Instagram has ads in it. Each time you scroll upwards, you saw the ad once. You came back again after 30 seconds and you scrolled again. The ad was again shown to you. That's 2 impressions. You open the Instagram 10 times in a day and see the same ad 10 times, that's 10 impressions.
Okay.
Clear? This impressions, clicks, and CTR is something which is standard across the digital world, and we'll keep using these terms even when we get into SEO or we'll come into advertising. So understanding what these terms mean is very important. So any confusion on CTR, impressions, or a click? No? Perfect. So tools like these, let me just push this a little down. Sorry. Tools like these actually give you a better understanding of what is working on a website, and we'll go back to Search Console when we do the class on SEO and analytics in detail. But I just want to share with you how we look at SEO from a perspective and I give a live example.
So that was module number 5, and let's look at what the coverage was in this particular module. We're on the topic of search engine optimization, and what we tried to understand in this particular session was an introduction into what are the aspects of search engine optimization which you should be aware of. The first important thing to understand is that SEO, or the position in the SEO or in a search engine, is essentially shaped on 2 factors. One is what is called on-page factors, and the second is what is called off-page factors. On-page factors is essentially what is there in your website. And remember, Google is an algorithm, or has an algorithm which basically tries to figure out what exactly are you offering. So the content which is there in your website essentially is your calling card, which introduces yourself to Google, and Google's algorithm tries to figure out what exactly you are offering, and therefore puts you in a bucket. Off-page factors are what others are speaking about you, how many mentions you get, how many times you've been referred to, and that's again a factor which Google takes into account while deciding what your rank is. So therefore, the rank you get in any search engine to a large extent is dependent on both off-page and on-page factors. Second, we were introduced to certain free tools which are available for you and I, which will help us understand which are the search words which are working well. And we were also introduced to the three concepts which is used in most of these free tools. The impressions, the click-through rate, and the rank. So understand that impressions is the number of times you and me as our eyeballs get to see a particular ad or a visual or anything, a message basically. Click-through rate is the number of times we click through. It's always as a percentage of the number of impressions. And the rank tells you the obviously what rank you are. And remember, there are 10 pages. There are 10 entries on the first page of a search engine. So if you're in the first 10, you come on page 1. The moment you slip to 11th, you come to the next rank, and so on and so forth. That was what our coverage was, an introduction to what search engine optimization is. In the next module, which is module 6, we'll move into advertising, and what we'll be introduced to is what is called PPC, or pay-per-click advertising. That's our coverage for the next module. See you there. Thank you very much.